probably the second time I've had just a group of adults looking at me. So it's quite fun and different, because normally, obviously, I'm presenting to classrooms full of kids. But I absolutely love being able to talk to everyone about my books, because I do think that, especially books like the memory book, they talk to everybody, especially if you have a loved one with dementia or experience it in any way, even as Michael pointed out, even as it's just a nice story to share with your family about that special relationship you can have with your grandma. I think it's just a really nice way of, I guess, approaching a subject which some folk find a little bit difficult to know how to talk to about with children. And children have a lot of questions, let's be fair. When my grandma got dementia, my children probably are the inspiration for a lot of the things that come up in this book, because they had questions of, why was grandma doing this? Why was this happening? Why was she forgetting their names? So I would love to be able to share with you the memory book. I've got some slides. I'm going to have to take over and put up a picture. So I'm going to read the book to you, if that's okay, everybody. Oh, spotlighted me. That was scary. My face was okay, very big there. So share screen. Hopefully I can get this up. There we go. Hopefully you can find this. Does that come up okay? Do you just see that? There we go. Hold on, I'm just going to see if I can make this. There we go, bigger. Does that make it bigger? There we go. Ta-da! So, the memory book. This book was illustrated by the amazing Erica Meza. She's done a wonderful job. Hopefully you enjoy the pictures, and I've got something really special to share with you after the reading, which hopefully you enjoy. So, think of the next one. This is my grandma. She has white hair, lots of wrinkles, kind eyes, and a big smile. I love visiting grandma. It's always lots of fun. We read together, play her piano, we feed the birds in the garden, and we love looking through her big box of photos. Some of the photos are in colour, some are black and white. Some are a funny brown colour and look really old. I like to pull out all of the photos from when grandma was little and line them up next to photos of me. I remember when I was your age, says grandma. You have curly hair just like me, I say with a giggle. And the same cheeky smile, adds grandma. Let's go to these ones. But recently my grandma seems to be getting in a muddle. She doesn't always remember who the people in the pictures are. I tell her I forget things all of the time too. I sometimes forget how to tie my shoelaces, and Mum can never remember where she's put her car keys. But when grandma forgets, she says it makes her feel very frustrated. Grandma has also started to put things in funny places. She once left the television remote in the bathroom. She put her cup of tea in the fridge, and she's always losing her glasses. And oh no, where did she put her box of photos? Grandma's house is starting to feel very different. And Mum explains that grandma is living with something called dementia. Dementia changes the way she thinks and behaves and can make her very forgetful and confused. It can happen when some people get older. I don't want grandma to change, I say. Even though she is living with dementia, she hasn't stopped being the person we know and love. Mum takes my hands. Grandma is still grandma. She's just a little different now. As time goes by, grandma's memory seems to be getting worse and worse. Mum thinks of some ways we can help. She says we must always talk to grandma about any changes we make around her, as we don't want her to feel left out. Grandma agrees that it would be useful to label some of the items around the house so she doesn't forget what they are and what they do. I'm using all my favourite pens and stickers, I tell her. Even though grandma is a bit different, we still read together. We play her piano and we feed the birds in the garden. But where are grandma's photos? I don't like to ask. Grandma still loves telling me stories. I remember when. But sometimes, only a few minutes later, she tells me the same story again, even though I've just heard it. She often calls me by the wrong name and acts a bit funny at times too. It can give me the giggles, but it also can be quite embarrassing. Mum says that maybe Grandma could do with some more help at home. I start to realise that Grandma has good days and she has bad days. The neighbours still like to pop in for a cup of tea, but now Grandma has a special person called a care worker who comes to help her around the house or to take her to the shops. Some days Grandma doesn't really like this and she gets very flustered. Who is this person? Why is he here? She asks. I can do all of this on my own. It makes me sad to see Grandma like this. Why don't we just move in with Grandma? I ask. That's a lovely idea, but we wouldn't be around enough, replies Mum. She's got help at home now, so she'll soon feel more at ease. We'll still pop in, Mum adds. Grandma loves to see your cheeky smile. Mum gives me a great big hug. Maybe there is something you can help me with, she says. Something that could really cheer up Grandma. Mum takes me to her room and there on her bed are the photos. I thought Grandma had lost them. I agreed with Grandma that we would organise them and make her a memory book, says Mum, full of all of the special people and events through her life. I can label them like I did with all the things in her house, I say. Then she will always remember when the photos were taken and who's who. I think that's a great idea, says Mum with a smile. This is my Grandma. We read together, we play her piano, we feed the birds in the garden. And now let's look through your new memory book, Grandma. I remember when I was your age, says Grandma, turning the pages. We look through the colour photos, the black and white ones, the really old brown ones. But oh, did you forget to fill the pages at the back, asked Grandma. No, Grandma, that's for filling with all the memories we're still going to make. I'll do a quick sneaky pic because it's a very nice bit. So after this, that was the main story of a girl and her grandma. But where I didn't want to just leave it with that, as I said, I found a lot of amazing children's books that cover dementia, but sometimes it's really important to know how to talk to children beyond the story. And sometimes we don't always have all the answers. So on this slide here, you've got the how can you help, which I can read through. But before that, I have a section which is what is dementia and looking after you. So I'll read those quickly. What is dementia? As people get older, we can see things like wrinkles, greying hair, walking sticks, or hearing aids. But there are some things we cannot see, like how someone's brain might be changing too. Dementia is an illness that impacts a person's memory and how they think and feel. It will make things that they used to do every day, like cooking, cleaning, or going to the shops, much more difficult to do by themselves. Here are some other changes that you might notice. Forgetfulness, not remembering faces, names, or places. Confusion, muddling days of the week, getting lost, or not being able to perform simple tasks anymore. Repetition, telling someone the same story over and over, or asking questions that have been just answered. Mood swings, going from happy emotions to sad or frustrated more quickly. But looking after you. Having a family member living with dementia can be difficult and may bring a whole range of new emotions to you. Some days can still be a lot of fun with them, but other days you may feel sad, angry, confused, embarrassed, and maybe even worried. Here are some things that can help make you feel better. Talk to your worries with someone you trust. Share happy memories with friends and family members. Ask a grown-up any questions you have about dementia. A person living with dementia might be acting differently, but always remember they still love you very much. And obviously here how you can help, as you've got on your screen. When you see someone you love changing, it can be very difficult, but there are always ways that you and your family can help them at home. Leave notes with reminders about appointments or any visitors coming. Label everyday objects to remind them what things are and how they work. Label photographs to help them recognize who is who. And create a photo album or memory box to encourage sharing memories and milestones. Sometimes people living with dementia may need more help than their families can give, so they may have to move to a special care home where they have carers and nurses ready to assist them. No matter where they're living, encouraging their hobbies and interests is also very important. There are lots of things you can try together. Singing, playing musical instruments, gardening, drawing, watching old movies and listening to music from their past, playing games, board games, puzzles, and to boost their memory. Sometimes these activities will be a little tiring for someone living with dementia, so just spending quiet time with them or chatting will help too. The best way you can help someone living with dementia is to give them your time, patience, understanding, and love. And that's my book on that. So I would like to stop sharing this one. Let's go. Just trying to find all the buttons now. How do I stop sharing? It won't let me find the button to stop sharing. I don't know what's happening. Pause share.
Is it up at the top, Louise? Where...
I know, but it's just my mouse has disappeared.
Oh, I see. Right.
I'm like, where has my mouse gone? Stop
share.
I
can do it for you.
There we go. Thank you. So one thing I just wanted to share before we go on to questions, if that's all right. I said this book is inspired by the real, someone's real life and things that we were doing to help my grandma when she had dementia. And I had a little other thing to share with you if you're interested, just to show you even how much this person's story is ingrained into the memory book. So hopefully it's going to work again. There we go. So, and then obviously you have some questions. Can you see that okay now? Did that come up? Or is it's disappeared for me? So hopefully you can still see it.
We can, yes, Louise.
Okay. Can you see the full screen or can you just see the...
Yes.
Yeah, okay, there we go. So there we go. I just thought I really wanted to share that with you because personally, I love the fact that it makes me a bit emotional. Every time I see it, I'm like, there are photos. It was so important that I could find a way to really bring her into this book because she inspired it. And Erica Meza was amazing at taking some of these photos and even incorporated some of her own family, her grandparents and old photos within her family, who I think she's going to putting together. She was a bit inspired after me sharing that with her. So she's putting together her own compilation of where her memories came from and where she took inspiration for the illustrations in the book too. So I assume you might have some questions. But yes, I hope you enjoyed that bit. I think we've got some comments. I have to pull them up now in the chat box. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Well,
Louise, just to say from me, thank you so much for that. What a lovely reading and a really beautiful book and a moving story. And I really like the way you've, as I said at the beginning, how you've written a really moving family story and kind of weaved in dementia, but in a quite a subtle way, really. And so I can imagine children wanting to reread it, and because it's a just really moving story about a family situation and a girl's relationship with her grandma. And yeah, we've had some lovely comments in the chat as well. People really enjoying it, and yeah, Tarina said as well, that she loves the way that you have the how you can help section at the back, and it's really informative for children. And Jacqueline saying that was so lovely, and beautiful reading as well. I suppose I just to kick off the questions, just wondered how long ago you had the idea for the book, and then what kind of journey you had to go on to get it published in February.
So soon, I mean, sadly, it's grandma. She was called Bubble to me. I think that was just for some reason she was Granny B. My sister couldn't call her Granny B, so she just became Beeble, and then my kids didn't want to call her Beeble, and then it transpired to Bubble, so she's Bubble. So I refer to Bubble, please understand that's my grandmother. When Bubble's sadly, not with us any longer, but when she passed away, it really made me sort of sit and think about some of the questions that my children had through that whole journey. And my grandma was someone who was a teacher. She worked in SEN, so with special educational needs. She believed that everybody should have access to stories, whether it's through song, reading, books. She's like, children should have reading materials, even if it's just a receipt. It's amazing. She was the biggest pioneer in my household for reading and sharing things. And I couldn't think of any other better way than trying to then write my grandma's story. And as I explained to Michael when we first sort of came on, it was probably very different to the memory book, because obviously I'd never written a book before. I didn't know where I wanted to start. And it started off when I was planning in my head, where I incorporated the life she had before dementia. And I think the wonderful thing that has been done with the memory book, with the wonderful help of and encouragement of Hachette and Erica's illustrations, is we might not have gone through the story of her life before, but bringing those photos in kind of really shows, she was a kid too. She had her own family. She did things, but I especially love that little cheeky one that Erica included of her, like when she was, and you can see she's even holding a book then. Books were her world. And I always sort of have this moment where I think, what better way to remember someone where reading, words, education was so important to her, and now she's kind of forever in her own book. And she gets to do what she loves. And I think that she would have been, very encouraging and very proud. She was always like, you're very creative. One day you'll do something creative. So maybe it's her. Maybe it was something that she came and gave me a nudge somehow and said, come on, let's put this story out there. But, I think it was just really important for me just to find a way of doing this. And Hachette actually approached me. They saw I was looking at doing something on this subject, and they sort of said, well, what ideas have you got? And I didn't know what age group. So I was like, I sent them about I guess about 10 different ideas. Do you want a story? Do you want a book? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want nonfiction for older kids? And we kind of settled on this amazing, way of doing it through a picture book for the younger readers. And it was really nice. So I didn't approach them in the genes. Yeah. So, they approached me and said, well, what have you got up your sleeve? And they fell in love with the idea of having this story between, a grandparent and the child, and kind of the child leading it as well. And it's how the child could help, and how the child could, I guess, take that story forward and cover so much, but from their point of view. And that was really important because, Bubble's story is important and Grandma's story is important. But at the end of the day, I think it's a lot of children when they're going through this experience in someone's dementia journey where they have, as I said earlier, they have questions. They don't know, can I ask questions? Is it okay to ask questions? Grandma seemed okay yesterday, maybe today's not such a good day. Why that? So I really loved how we kind of managed to incorporate all those big points without maybe having to go into it too much, because again, everyone's dementia journey is individual. There's no way of me writing the book for children, the book for dementia. As a lot of you know, there's so many different ways it affects everyone, but hopefully I've done enough that even in this conversation we can cover a lot of the ground basics. think it was important, as you saw, the repetition of grandma keeping her hobbies, something which was really, really important to me. And the editing team at Hachette were really, really wonderful with. And I kept sending them videos of, like, especially there was someone, my grandma would sit at the piano and she would just come alive again, and she would play the piano for anyone that walked in the house. It didn't matter if you're the postman, she'd still try and bring you in and play the piano. That was her hobby and her thing that she liked doing. And so it was really wonderful we could still keep that in there and kind of do a gentle nod of the repetition of keeping their hobbies, because, you know, sometimes they might be forgetful, but some of this is stored in such a different way, a different place, that, you know, you sing with them and all of a sudden, you know, they might be having a bad day and they just all of a sudden, like, oh, I know this song, and they come alive again. So it was really important just to add those bits in, but also to remind children that sometimes also they need a bit of quiet, and that's also okay. We can't always entertain. And that's at the end part, I sort of say, you know, sometimes just being there is important. So anyways, that's where it started. It's been about 3 years, I think, from Hachette saying, what have you got up your sleeve? Me sending, I said, lots of different ideas, lots of different ways of tackling this subject. And I think we got to a point, as I said, where I'm really pleased with it. And I'm, you know, obviously there's so much more you can say on the subject. But I think that the memory book kind of gives a good starting place, I hope.
Yeah.